The Philadelphia Eagles made a move earlier this week that went down beautifully with the fan base, and that was to sign offensive guard Brandon Brooks to a 4-year contract extension worth $54 million, with $30 million of which being guaranteed. That makes him the highest paid guard in the NFL, and the question is he the best guard in the entire NFL? And that's what we're going to be examining today by looking at just how dominant he was against one of the best defensive fronts in the NFL, the Chicago Bears. My name is Liam Jenkins, and welcome to another episode of Eagles Film Room. As always, guys, before we get started, make sure you leave a like and hit that subscribe button if you enjoy this sort of content. And as always, make sure to get your daily dose of Philadelphia sports content from phillysportsnetwork.com. And if this video gets 500 likes, as always, we will pick a random commenter to win a free Philly Sports Network t-shirt. So if you want one, all you've got to do really, leave a like, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and drop your opinion on Brandon Brooks down below. Before we do dive into the tape, though, I did just want to make the point that it is absolutely absurd that we are having this conversation given the year that Brandon Brooks has had. Let's be honest here, the man tore his Achilles in the playoff loss to the New Orleans Saints, an injury that was supposed to keep him out for around 8 weeks. People were estimating at least 3 or 4 games, and the guy rehabbed like crazy. This is a man that weighs way over 300 pounds. He defines the term dancing bear, so he comes back off the Achilles injury and starts in week 1, and not only does he start, but he is Pro Football Focus's highest graded offensive lineman. He has been playing out of his mind, the best football of his career. Forget comeback player of the year, this may be the best offensive lineman in the NFL. So before we even talk about what makes him so great and so special, the fact he has battled through a torn Achilles, a rehab, got back on the field way earlier than scheduled, and got to this point to earn that contract extension, it speaks volumes about the type of player Brandon Brooks is, the character, the heart, and the passion he shows. Let's start off with this play. It's going to be a weak side run. You're going to have a jumbo set to the right with Halapoulivaati Vaitai as the extra blocker, and this is a perfect example of what makes Brooks so dangerous, because he's basically a third offensive tackle. He's 6'5", 335 pounds, but somehow has the footwork of an athletic center and the core strength of a tackle. It is a thunderous combination, and when you get him on a double team situation with Lane Johnson, I don't care who you are, good luck getting out of it. There's an example of that here. Again, all of these clips from last week's win over the Chicago Bears. But what makes Brooks so special in this double team instance is look at the positioning. He gets his body in front of the defensive tackle, and if you compare that to Sayamalo, who slightly overexerts himself and gives that potential cutback lane, that's the difference between an all-pro talent and a serviceable starter. It's that mental awareness to seal that block after sustaining it, to cut away the comeback and allow a rushing lane to open. It's a rare skill set to have, and so is the intelligence that Brooks has. This is one of my favorite plays from last week's game. It wasn't one of the most explosive, but it was one of the most fun to watch. Now, his task here is to get to the second level and take linebacker number 58, Roquan Smith, out of this play. Now, that is no easy task. Roquan Smith is a very good linebacker, but the athleticism that Brooks shows to drive him all the way to Sweden and back on a 4x4 is unbelievable. The pathway that Jordan has on this 13-yard touchdown run is unbelievable. Howard's in for the score, but it wouldn't have happened without Brandon Brooks. The man is an absolute mauler, or a road grader, or whatever term you want to use it. There is such a ridiculous amount of core upper body strength here. Like, he just drives people to the ground over and over again. He does not stop playing. And we talk about with younger tackles or younger guards the ability to sustain blocks and how important it is, but with Brooks you rarely ever have that concern because he's so dominant, and if he can't sustain a block or initiate it, he'll just plow you into the ground for fun. Like, he literally takes a man off of Jason Kelce's shoulder and puts him on the turf. It is an unbelievable play. And then you see the vertical push, and the Eagles, as we know, run a lot of draws, a lot of screens, a lot of play action, and they rely on those offensive linemen to push upfield. But look at how many yards off the ball Brooks is able to drive his assignment with the help of Lane Johnson. You just don't see that on a regular basis, and there's that misconception that the Eagles love athletic and slightly more nimble offensive linemen, but Brooks is exactly that. Just because he's 335 pounds does not mean he will not get to the second level and absolutely ruin you. Like, look at this play. It's a screen pass to Miles Sanders, and Brooks gets upfield in front of the running back and flattens, absolutely pancakes, puts some cream and syrup on Clinton Dix, a defensive back. That was always going to be the case, but how does a man who is coming off a torn Achilles get upfield that fast, find an assignment that fast, and put him into the turf? It is incredible. And if you look at the layout of this play, where Jason Kelce is going to come up and take that linebacker out of the equation, watch how Brandon Brooks reacts, reads the field, is aware, gets upfield, firstly sheds the block, and at this stage, Kelce's well in front, Sarnes is about to get the ball, and look at him keep his head up. He's immediately finding work, approaches Clinton Dix, squares up, and just pile drives him into the dirt. That's exactly what you want to see, and it's hard not to get excited when watching any tape of Brandon Brooks. And what's even more exciting is the fact that you don't have to put together a compilation of all of his best bits from the season, because every game he plays is a best bit from the season. Like, look at the state of this, just shoving Roquan Smith around again for fun, like he's literally pushing a bag of sugar across a desk. There is so much core strength, but it all starts from a firm lower base and very quick feet, and we're going to see an example of that exactly here against Danny Trevathan. Again, another strong linebacker that you don't want to mess with. You don't want to make a mistake here. Brooks gets straight into him, squares up, and at this point it looks like he's got a chance to rip down and take away a huge cut back lane from Howard. But watch those feet. He keeps his back straight, constantly drives with that lower body, and somehow battles his way back into the block and wins it. That's tough to do against someone so dominant. Now here's Eddie Goldman, number 98. This is another name worth noting, a physical defensive tackle who can cause problems. Stonewalled here. Brooks makes it look like child's play. Nothing to worry about whatsoever. When we talk about sustaining contact, this is what we mean. He gets the inside arm on the chest, and he's got the outside arm almost wrapped around the outside arm of Goldman, keeping contact. So if Goldman was gonna rip away, there is no chance he's getting out of this armbar level technique. Like, look at it, there is nothing he can do. He's being pushed back and leveraged with the inside arm, while the one on the outside is trapped. It can't swim, it can't club, it can't escape the claws of Brandon Brooks, or Moneybags Brooks as his teammates are now calling him. Now this is another example, that one-handed drive. He just pushed Goldman halfway up the field with one hand. And if we're going to just talk purely pass protection, when you've got someone that is going to try and utilize those moves on you and try and swim over the top, Brooks is so fundamentally sound with his footwork, with his hand placement, with keeping his head up and his back straight, that there's not much he can do that's going to throw him off guard, because that initial punch is so strong and he's able to maintain leverage and drive into the rib cage of the pass rusher, that even if he did swim over the top successfully, he's going to be barraged way out of path anyway. And on the rare instance where he is beaten, there's a lot of hand movement there, but Brooks clinging onto that inside arm and driving back again. So even if the defensive tackle gets an advantage and does find a slight opening, Brooks will just throw you back to another planet, because that's what Brandon Brooks does. Every play is becoming a masterclass at this stage. The hand placement, the ability to just stonewall pass rushes, it doesn't get better. Here is one of my favorite plays from that game. What I call it is spreading butter. Imagine you put butter on bread, you want to spread it for some toast. You don't want to clump it all together because you're going to leave bits unaccounted for. That's what Brandon Brooks does here. He's aware that Khalil Mack is on one side challenging Lane Johnson, and Jason Kelce has his hands full inside. So Brooks very smartly plays both assignments and just seals that part of the field. So he gets one hand helping Jason Kelce, then pushes himself into the side of Khalil Mack, which only further cements him into the back pocket of Lane Johnson. And that's what we talk about when you've got your guard and your tackle in sync, the ability to read what's going on, to feel the pocket and understand where you're going to be needed. That then obviously falls into stunt recognition, where we've got an example of that here, where he just plays it off so perfectly in one swift motion, and there's just nothing the Bears could do in this game get past Brandon Brooks. The man is just a machine. There is physically nothing that people can do now to get past him, and of course he's going to give up the occasional play, or there may be a slight lapse in concentration here and there, but for the most part he has been downright unbelievable. And I know I've said that a few times in this video, but Brandon Brooks has been playing out of his mind this year, to the point where you don't really even need to say much analysis wise. You just turn on the tape and say, watch him, and there is no mistakes. It is 100% clean, concise, perfect offensive line play. And is he the best offensive guard in the NFL? You can make the case that he's up there in the same conversation as Zach Martin. The NFC East is stacked with right guards anyway, or elite guards on both sides of the ball. But when you look at Brandon Brooks and what he's done and what he's come back from, I would say it's very difficult for any of those guards aforementioned, or anyone in the NFL of that size, of that frame, to come back from a torn Achilles and that year play that well. This is the best we have seen Brandon Brooks play. He has been the one constant along this offensive line. Everyone else has been a bit topsy-turvy. Lane Johnson started a bit cold. Jason Kelce had a couple of wobbly moments. Isaac Seumalo took a while to settle in, and there was an injury to Jason Peters. Brandon Brooks, for the second year in a row in the opening half of the season, has been the team's team's best undisputed offensive lineman. He is absolutely deserving of that payday, and I want to know what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments below. Is Brandon Brooks the best offensive guard in football? Let me know, guys, for your chance to win a t-shirt from myself, Liam Jenkins. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch this video. It does mean the world to me. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's @LiamJenkinsPSN. I'll see you soon.